Stout-Hearted 7, Chapter 6. Slowly the travelers moved westward. The rain ceased. In its place came hot July sunshine and dust pouring endlessly up through the cracks of the wagon bed. The prairies were still green, though every day Mama said she could see more brown in the grass. Papa said that was a sign it was curing, like meat over a fire. The cattle seemed to do well with it. Mama gained strength every day. Often she sat with Papa on the wagon seat, the baby in her arms, while Matilda and Louise played together just behind her in the space where the beds lay at night. Matilda's knee hurt if she walked too much, and Louise was such a wild little thing that Mama would not let either of them out of her sight for very long. Catherine and Elizabeth were free most of the time to run alongside the wagon or play with the other children. Mama started them out every morning with sunbonnets tied firmly under their chins. But before long, the bonnets hung down around their backs and their hair came unbraided. Their faces grew tanned, their sundresses torn and dirty. Mama said, what would people think of her letting her children run wild? Papa said that it did not matter. They were healthy and strong as ever before. Often he pointed out to Mama that with all her troubles, she had not had malaria this summer. The West had already cured her. John and Frank, too, ran wild. Their duty was mainly to help the cattle behind the column of wagons. They showed up at mealtimes, dirty and hungry. Frank's eyes danced in his latest practical joke. John, as always, more steady and reliable, but ready to fight for his brother if need be. Often Papa was called to prescribe for some sick person. Catherine saw him smile as he went from tent to tent with his little bag of medicines. This was what he liked to do best. He even pulled teeth now and then, using a pair of pliers or turn screw. The last day of July, he announced one night after supper. I wish these long days would last until we get to Oregon. Just look at that sunset. How bright the colors are here on the prairie. Catherine had not thought about that before, but it was true. The dust had settled, so the air was clear. The sunset stretched all the way around to the north like a great pink veil flung over the sky. In the morning, everyone was shivering. First day of August, fall is coming, Papa said. The captain tells me we should get to Fort Laramie by night. What is a fort? Elizabeth asked. A place where people can go for protection. There are high walls around it, so no one can get in once the gate is closed. Will there be Indians near? I suppose so, but they won't hurt us. I'll be glad to see buildings again, Mama said. Will we stop for a few days? The captain says not. We have had so many delays, we are behind schedule. If we don't move right along, we could get caught by a snowstorm in the Blue Mountains. At noon, the wagon train stopped in a beautiful grove beside the North Platte River. The men and boys took a quick swim. Mama rinsed out the baby's diapers as she did whenever they stopped near a stream. After an hour's rest, Captain Shaw ordered the train to move on. They left the river and started over the level, sandy plain. The afternoon grew very warm. It seemed impossible that anyone felt cold at night. Mama urged the girls to rest for a while with her, and all of them went to sleep except Catherine. She lay awake wishing she could get out of the dust boiling up through the floor cracks. Moving silently, she crawled to the front and out the seat. Papa was walking beside the oxen, as he often did. Catherine thought she would like to walk with him. She stepped down to the wagon tongue and jumped, as she had done dozens of times. She had not noticed that Papa's axe had not been pushed clear into the toolbox at the side, and the handle stuck out. As she jumped, her dress caught on it. Down she went, just behind the hooves of the off ox. She screamed, then everything went black as the heavy wheels passed over her body. The next thing she knew, she was laying in the road behind the wagon. Papa was kneeling beside her and Mama looking down at her, tears running down her face. "Catherine, baby!" "Naomi, she is still alive." "Of course I am." Catherine tried to sit up, then fell back, the blackness sweeping over her again. Papa lifted her in his arms, staring at her oddly dangling left leg. "Oh, my dear child, your leg is broken." Men came running to put up the tent. Papa carried her inside and laid her on a hastily spread blanket. "There is a doctor in the next company. I'll get him," she heard a man say. "Papa, you fix my leg," she whispered. He did not reply, but gently began straightening her leg. Catherine screamed with the sudden, terrible pain. John and Frank rushed into the tent, panting. "What's happened now?" "John, bring me some of those thin strips of wood inside the wagon," Papa ordered. "Naomi, I'll need bandages. Bring a sheet from your chest." It was a bad time for Catherine before the leg lay bandaged in splints to keep it straight. Both Papa and Mama praised her for her bravery. The work had just been finished when they heard the pounding of hooves and two men burst into the tent. "This is Dr. Dagan," said their neighbor, who had ridden to bring him. Catherine looked up into a face almost covered with a bushy beard. Two bright blue eyes looked down at her with a kindness she could feel. The doctor knelt beside her and ran his finger lightly across the bandaged leg. "Just as good as I could do my own self," he said in a thick German accent. Elizabeth and Matilda, who had crept into the tent behind him, began to giggle at his strange way of speaking, and Mama hustled them outside. Papa and the doctor talked in low tones. Then Papa went away for a while and came back carrying a long, narrow box. "Now then, Catherine, I've made something to carry your leg in till it's well," he said cheerfully. "Mama has padded the inside and will lay your leg in it so the jostling won't hurt so much. Dr. Dagan, let's see if we can get her into the wagon. We've moved things around so that there's room for the beds." Someone brought a canvas stretcher and slid it under Catherine's small body as Papa lifted her. They carried her to the wagon and placed her in a space they had cleared at the other end from Mama's bed. "That feels better," she whispered, trying to smile as Papa slipped the padded box under her leg. "Henry, we don't have to go on today, do we?" Mama begged. "I'll ask Captain Shaw." When he returned, Catherine heard him talking to Mama outside the wagon. "I'm sorry, Naomi. We have only a few hours to travel to reach Fort Laramie. The captain says we must go on." He was seized with a fit of coughing. "Your cold is worse." "Don't bother about me. I'll be all right. Our poor child. If only I had not let them jump over the wheel. I hope I set that leg right. If I didn't, she may never walk again." "Hush, Henry." Catherine lay thinking. Never walk again? Never run or jump again? Oh no, it can't be. I'll keep quiet. I won't cry or make a fuss. Surely it will get well. But oh, if I had only noticed the axe handle. During the short stay at Fort Laramie, Elizabeth looked around, then came to report to Catherine. "Just as Papa said, A high log wall with a gate on it. Lots of Indians. They don't look mean. Dr. Dagon said he would go along with the Saggers for a while to keep watch on Catherine's leg. He did not have a wagon of his own, but had been paying for space in another, so it was very little trouble for him to bring his small bag of clothes and medicines and share the tent at night. "I'm very grateful to you," Mama said. "My husband is not well, and the boys seem to be taking cold." Papa protested that he was not sick, but one day he could not get up. The boys, too, were obviously very ill. Dr. Dagon examined them, then said soberly, "They all have camp fever. They must stay in bed." He and Mama moved the piles of bedding and clothing and dwindling sacks of supplies, making the wagon a moving hospital. Every inch of space was taken by beds, with Dr. Dagon working night and day with Pollux and hot drinks. The sick men and 2 boys gradually began to recover. For some time, the whole wagon train had been short of supplies, especially meat, and many people wished they had not wasted so much back in buffalo country. It seemed almost inevitable then when suddenly, one afternoon, a few of the huge animals came galloping clumsily over the prairie. Papa heard shouts of, "Buffalo!" and sprang from his bed. "Henry, you must not go. You aren't strong enough," Mama protested. Dr. Dagon shouted in German something Catherine knew must have been the same warning. Papa only said, "We need meat," grabbed his gun, and jumped from the wagon. Hours later, he dragged himself back, exhausted and dripping with sweat. Before long, he was burning with fever, and Catherine, laying next to him, knew he was terribly sick again. The doctor did all he could, but this time his remedies did not help. Every day Papa grew weaker until Catherine thought she could not stand to hear him groan and feel his body shake with chills. Finally, out of his mind with fever, he began raving about his farm in Missouri. One evening, after the train had made camp, Captain Shaw came. "How are you feeling, Mr. Sagger?" "I'm dying." "Don't say that, man. You'll pull through." Papa's voice was very weak. "Captain Shaw, I have heard about that missionary, Dr. Marcus Whitman, and how people can stay at his place over the winter if they need to. Will you take my wife and children there? Naomi is still weak, and this little one here will be crippled for a long time." "Of course I will, Mr. Sagger, if you aren't up and around by the time we get there. But don't give up hope." Throughout the night, after Captain Shaw's visit, Mama sat by Papa's side, keeping cool cloths on his forehead. But his fever ran so high that Catherine could feel the heat of it through the blankets. Toward morning, she fell asleep, and when she awakened, Mama was pulling a sheet up over Papa's face. "Is he better, Mama?" Mama had a wild look in her eyes. She hardly seemed to know what she was saying. "Oh, Henry, if only we had stayed in Missouri." They had camped that night on the banks of the Green River. A beautiful place, Elizabeth told Catherine. Captain Shaw ordered some of the men to cut down one of the cottonwood trees along the bank. They split it and hollowed out the pieces to make a coffin for Papa, and ministers traveling with them read the funeral service. Catherine could hear most of it from her bed. "Don't cry, Katie," said Elizabeth, who stayed with her. "Papa would like to be in such a lovely place under the trees." "I wish I could see it," Catherine replied. "Write it in the Bible that he died on the 28th of August." Remember, they record all the births and deaths in the Bible. After Elizabeth had gone, she could no longer keep from crying. "Oh, Papa, Papa," she sobbed. Then it seemed as if he spoke to her. "Be brave. Set a good example for others." She did not want to be brave, but she had promised, so she wiped her eyes. When Mama came to the wagon and laid down beside her, she whispered, "We'll make it, Mama. We'll get to Oregon as Papa wanted. I'm getting better. I'll soon be up with you. Oh, Katie, what would I do without you?" So, chapter 6, Papa Sager passes away. That is a really sobering thought. Now remember, this is a real family. These are real people, and they were so devastated that Papa passed away. But they're determined to keep going. So, tomorrow we'll hear what happens in chapter 7. All right, my friends, I will be posting the help for chapter 5. And then if you want to look at the questions on chapter 6, you can try to answer them, but I will post a video tomorrow with help on those. All right, I will talk to you later, my friends. Bye.